Not every house is abandoned because it's old. Some are left behind for a reason. Reasons that are buried in silence and whispered only to those unlucky enough to return. Tonight you'll hear the story of Emma, a young woman who thought she found peace in her grandmother's farmhouse. But what she found instead was a nightmare that had been waiting for decades. And once she stepped inside, the house made sure she could never leave. You know that strange feeling you get when you're being watched? That heavy silence, like the air itself is holding its breath. That's exactly how Emma felt the night she moved into her grandmother's abandoned farmhouse. The place had been empty for nearly 20 years. Nobody in the family wanted it, but Emma, a struggling writer desperate for peace and quiet, thought it would be the perfect escape. The house sat at the end of a dirt road, miles away from the nearest neighbor. The windows were coated in dust, the roof sagged like it was tired of standing, and weeds had swallowed the porch. But despite the decay, Emma felt strangely drawn to it, as if the house had been waiting for her. The first night seemed quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that doesn't feel empty, but full of something you can't quite name. She unpacked a few boxes, made herself tea, and sat by the window. That's when she noticed it. Across the field, just beyond the tree line, a figure stood, completely still, too far to make out its face, watching. She told herself it was a scarecrow, just a farmer's scarecrow, left to rot in the field. But something about the way it stood, straight, tall, and deliberate, made her skin crawl. Emma turned away, laughing nervously at herself, but when she glanced back, the figure was gone. The silence grew heavier. That night, the farmhouse creaked and groaned like an old ship. Emma lay in bed, wrapped in blankets, telling herself the noises were normal. Houses settle. Wood shifts, nothing to fear. But then came the footsteps. Slow, heavy, dragging. From the hallway outside her room, she froze, heart pounding in her throat. The boards groaned, one after another, inching closer. She held her breath, straining her ears, until the steps stopped right outside her door. Silence. Her hand trembled as she reached for the bedside lamp. She clicked it on. Nothing. Just the empty hallway stretching into darkness. Emma forced a laugh, shaky and hollow. "I'm just tired," she whispered to herself. "Too much unpacking, that's all." But the next morning, something didn't add up. On the kitchen table lay a teacup, not hers, an antique porcelain cup she had never seen before, filled with water that smelled faintly of earth. Muddy footprints trailed from the back door into the kitchen, then stopped at the table. And when she looked out the window, back toward the field, the figure was there again. Closer. Not at the tree line anymore, but standing halfway across the field, facing the house. Emma's stomach knotted. The figure hadn't been there a second ago. It was as if it had appeared the moment she looked outside. She shut the curtains, tried to calm her nerves, but deep down she knew something was very wrong with this house, and whatever was watching her wasn't planning on leaving. By the third night, Emma was exhausted. She hadn't slept more than a few hours. Every creak, every groan of the old farmhouse kept her wide-eyed in bed. But that night, it wasn't just noises. It started with whispers, faint, almost like the wind through the cracks in the walls. Except they weren't random. They were words. "Get out. Get out." Emma sat up, her chest tight. The whispers came from the floorboards, from the walls, from the very air around her. She stumbled toward the living room, desperate to prove to herself it was just her imagination. That's when she noticed the photographs. Family portraits she had never seen before lined the hallway. Men, women, children, faces frozen in sepia tones, all staring directly into the camera. Their eyes seemed to follow her, sharp and unblinking. But here's the thing. She had unpacked every box she brought. She never hung those photos. Emma's pulse quickened. She leaned closer to one photograph of a young girl, maybe 10 years old. The girl's smile was wide, but wrong, too wide. And in the reflection of her eyes, Emma swore she saw a tiny silhouette of herself standing there. The sound of a door slamming upstairs made her jump. She spun around, heart hammering. But she was alone. The staircase loomed in the dark, each step leading into a suffocating shadow. Something about the upstairs terrified her, but a part of her felt pulled, dragged to investigate. Her hand trembled on the banister as she took the first step up. The air grew colder with each creak of the stairs. At the top of the landing, the hallway stretched long and narrow, lined with closed doors. One door stood slightly ajar. A soft light flickered inside, like candlelight. Emma's breath shook as she pushed it open. Inside was a bedroom, dusty, untouched, except for one thing. A chair in the center of the room, facing the wall, and in it, someone was sitting. The figure in the chair didn't move. Its head was tilted slightly, like it was listening for her. Emma's whole body screamed to run, but her feet carried her forward, as if she were no longer in control. The closer she got, the colder the air became. Her breath came out in white clouds, the silence so sharp it hurt her ears. She reached out, shaking, toward the chair. "Hello?" Her voice cracked. The figure twitched. Emma gasped and stumbled back. Slowly, painfully, the head turned toward her. It wasn't a stranger's face. It was her grandmother. But not the way Emma remembered her. The skin was grey, paper thin, stretched tight over bone. Her eyes were black pits, swallowing the light, and when she opened her mouth, the voice that came out was not her grandmother's. It was a chorus. Dozens of voices. Men, women, children, all whispering together. "Stay with us." Emma screamed, bolting down the hallway. The floorboards cracked under her feet like they might give way. Behind her, she heard the scrape of the chair dragging across the floor, then footsteps rushing after her. Too many footsteps, too fast, too close. She barreled down the stairs, the whispers chasing her. The walls seemed to pulse with voices, faces pressing out of the peeling wallpaper, mouths stretched wide in silent screams. She slammed into the front door and yanked it open, but froze. Out in the field, the figure was there again, closer than ever. Just at the edge of the porch now. Tall, still, watching. And as Emma stared, her grandmother's voice whispered from right behind her ear. "You can't leave. You've already let us in." Emma stumbled backward from the doorway, her eyes darting between the figure outside and the voices closing in from behind. The air grew so heavy it felt like she was drowning in it. She ran to the back door, locked. She tried the windows, nailed shut, every exit sealed. The whispers rose to a deafening roar, rattling the glass, shaking the walls. Then silence. The house went still. Emma turned slowly, her chest heaving. In the center of the living room stood her grandmother again, but now she wasn't alone. The figures from the photographs lined the walls, dozens of them. All the faces Emma had seen in those sepia portraits, now standing in the flesh. Their smiles were too wide, their eyes bottomless voids. Emma backed into a corner, tears streaking her face. "What do you want from me?" she sobbed. Her grandmother stepped forward, head twitching at impossible angles. The chorus of voices spoke as one. "You came back. You belong to the house now." The shadows swallowed Emma before she could scream. And in the field outside, where the figure had stood, the Scarecrow now bore her face, its head tilted just slightly, watching the house, waiting for the next visitor who wouldn't leave.
Hi, I'm Emma from Morbora, and that was my story. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a review or share your thoughts. I'd love to know what you think. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more stories. Thanks for listening.